In today's video, we are going to be ranking each championship club's highest wage earner by how much they earn in comparison to each other player. Now, all the figures that we will be using for today's video are coming over from Salary Sport. From what I can gather, they seem to be sort of reliable with what these numbers are, although I'm sure that there will be a few that are slightly off. If you do go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular championship content. But without any further ado, let's hop into this one. And it goes without saying that loan players aren't included in today's video, only players that are at your club on a permanent basis. Coming in at the bottom of the pile, we have Rotherham's highest earner, who is Tom Eaves, coming in with a weekly wage packet of £5,600. Now, obviously, the figures that we're going to be talking about in today's video are absolutely massive, but we have to keep in mind these are comparable to each other and different players in the Championship, and based on their wage structure, I think this speaks to the volumes of how well Rotherham have actually done to be competing this year. The fact that their highest earner is only on, I say only, £5,600 a week. Coming in 23rd place, we then have Blackpool's highest earner coming in as Callum Connolly with £6,400 a week. I was a little bit surprised to learn that he was Blackpool's highest earner according to this website. There were a few more who I thought might have been right up there, but Blackpool do seem to have a few players who are in and around that 6k mark, but as of right now, no one has gone past that margin. Coming in 22nd place, we then have Cauley Woodrow, who's Luton's highest earner at just £8,400, considering how competitive Luton have been in the Championship over these last couple of years. They've done a miraculous job to go ahead and keep that wage bill down. Usually with what we see when a club has that, gradual trajectory up the footballing ladder, the wage bill starts to really balloon from that point onwards, but Luton have done a really good job in keeping that in line so far and keeping their expenditures on their wage bill fairly low and in control. Coming in 21st place, we then have Coventry City's Jake Bidwell on 10k a week. I was really quite surprised to learn that he was Coventry's highest earner, but I suppose it makes sense. He came in on a free transfer, and so more of that money will have then gone towards his wage packet. Now, I'm not totally sure if the website is fully up to date with the more recent contracts that the likes of Gustavo Hamer and Callum O'Hare signed, and whether or not their more recent deals will have taken them over that 10k a week threshold. In 20th place, we then have Wigan Athletic's highest earner, who's currently coming in as Charlie Wyke on £12,000 a week. Usually what tends to be the case, and we'll see this throughout the video, it is usually the strikers who do get those more lucrative deals, and this is the case with Charlie Wyke in at Wigan. Also on 12k a week, we have Huddersfield's highest earner, who's coming in as Lee Nichols. To be fair to him and how busy he's actually been kept so far this season, I think he'll be deserving a wage increase come the end of the season. But one of the best goalkeepers in the Championship and certainly deserving of being Huddersfield's highest earner. Next up, we have QPR's highest earner coming in as Andre Dozzell on £13,000 a week. I was really quite surprised to learn that according to Salary Sport, he's their highest earner as things stand, just a little bit more than the likes of Ilias Chair and Stefan Johansson. Obviously, quite a bit of talk around QPR at the moment and Willock's current contract situation. If they are able to tie him down to a new deal, I'm sure that he'll probably become their highest earner. But QPR have done a really good job, to be fair to them, over recent years of significantly reducing that wage bill, and this probably speaks to that, the fact that they're quite low in on today's video. Coming in 17th place, we then have Sunderland's highest earner coming in as Jack Clark on a £15,000 a week salary. Obviously signed on a permanent basis for Sunderland in the summer, was previously on a Premier League rate wage, which was perhaps a little bit more inflated than this while he was at Spurs. But yeah, quite like the look of Jack Clark so far, really getting his career back on track at Sunderland. Coming in 16th place, we then have Millwall's Benik Afobe coming in with an £18,000 a week salary. Obviously speaks to what we were saying before about how generally it is the strikers who are given the big bucks. Now, Millwall's wage structure is quite an interesting one actually when you go ahead and look into it. According to Salary Sport, there are only a handful of players who are on over £10,000 a week, and the rest of them, the vast majority, are below that figure. But someone like Afobe, they have given that more lucrative deal to. And the same can also be said for Callum Robinson in at Cardiff. He's coming in as their top earner, also at that 18k a week mark. I'm sure he was on a similar sort of contract whilst at West Brom as well. Obviously, their biggest summer signing throughout the summer transfer window. It was an absolutely huge overhaul of that squad. And at the moment, one of the few players who can actually hit the target for them. And in 14th place, we then have Blackburn's top earner coming in as Bradley Dack on £18,000 a week. Thought this one was quite interesting. Obviously, Bradley Dack, someone who's got an absolutely massive reputation in at Blackburn, but just a player who's been really hampered with injuries over these last few seasons. The big talk with Blackburn is obviously surrounding the future of Ben Brereton Diaz, previously trying to get him tied down to a new contract, but in him wanting to keep his options open, he's not going ahead and tied himself down to a new deal. Should Blackburn, miraculously manage to do that, I'm sure it would cost a hell of a lot more than 18 grand a week at this rate with the Premier League clubs that have been interested in him. In at 13th place, we have Preston North End's Alan Brown coming in with a weekly wage packet of £19,000 a week. Alan Brown's an interesting one. When he signed his new deal, we were in a situation where, several of our big stars were coming towards the end of their contracts. It was Brown, Pearson, Ben Davis and Daniel Johnson. In the end, we managed to get DJ and Brown tied down to new deals. And, Brown himself, he is the club captain now. He's made over 350 appearances for the club, closing in on 400 appearances in all competitions, and does somewhat feel like a player who at times we probably take a little bit for granted, but also with being the top wage earner at around that 19,000 point mark, we probably do expect more from him at that point as well. But him and Daniel Johnson both tied as our top earners on 19k a week. In at 12th place, we then have Swansea City's Matt Grimes, who's coming in as their top earner on £21,000 a week. So we are starting to creep up now, getting into those higher wages. We are over the 20k a week mark now, and we are at the halfway point of the video. But Matt Grimes, a player who probably could have jumped shipped a few times whilst being at Swansea. There have been some links in there, but has been such a pivotal player to their success in recent years. Coming in 11th place, we then have Hull City's Jean-Michel Seri coming in with a £24,000 a week contract. I'm sure that was, some of the bargaining power that Hull had in going ahead and swaying this deal in the summer, because, thinking back to when this transfer rumour first pops up, I was thinking to myself, there's no chance that Hull get a player of that quality. How good he'd been in years gone by at higher levels, and for Fulham previously with getting them promoted. But they did get this deal over the line. Has had a few niggles with injuries and things like that, but when he is fully on it, I think he probably justifies that. You just want to see a little bit more consistency out of him. We're ramping up the wages now though. Coming in 10th place, we have Middlesbrough's Chuba Akpom coming in with a weekly wage of £27,000. He is Middlesbrough's highest wage earner. Obviously, was quite a big signing for them at the time. The money they spent on him didn't immediately go to plan with Akpom, but now really seems to be finding his feet in at Middlesbrough and probably finally justifying that weekly wage packet. Coming in 9th place, also on £27,000 a week, we have Bristol City's Nahki Wells. Now, this season has been somewhat of a resurgence for Nahki Wells in at Bristol City. Last season, for whatever reason, couldn't really find a consistent spot in that starting 11. A lot of his appearances did come off the bench, but Nahki Wells originally signing for Bristol City was a fairly high profile deal with the sort of money they spent on him, the other Championship clubs who were interested at the time, and for 27 grand a week, you would be expecting a regular goal return, wouldn't you? Coming in 8th place, we then have West Brom's highest earner coming in as Oke Yakashlu, coming in at just under that 30 grand a week mark. He's reportedly coming in with a weekly wage of £29,000. Obviously, given his pedigree, the level that he's played at previously, that higher wage was probably to be expected when West Brom got that deal over the line. Obviously, did previously have him on loan, now have him on a permanent basis. In 7th place, we then have Reading's Liam Moore coming in with a humongous 30 grand a week contract. No wonder they've been trying to shift him on for the past few transfer windows. Obviously, Reading in recent windows have been massively restricted with the contracts that they've been able to hand out. They've been on quite a strict wage cap for what they can actually go ahead and offer players, as probably a result of a little bit of their reckless spending with the lucrative deals they gave out in the past, this being an example of one of them. Another example of really recklessly handing out lucrative deals, we have Birmingham's highest earner coming in as Harley Dean on £32,000 £1,000 a week, which is absolutely crazy. Harley Dean, who's had quite a love-hate relationship, I'd say, with the Birmingham fans over his years at the club after that big move over from Brentford, but 32k a week is absolutely mind-blowing. Coming in 5th position, we then have Burnley's highest earner coming in as Jay Rodriguez on £33,000 a week. Now, you'd imagine that this would have been a contract given out in the Premier League. Whether or not this was the case, that he had a relegation clause in his contract or not, where his wage was slightly reduced from them being in the Premier League, I'm not all too sure, but follows along with the thought process of those highest earners being those players going forward, and to be fair, has backed it up with quite a lot of goals this season. In 4th place, we then have Sheffield United's highest earner coming in as Rhian Brewster on £34,000 a week. Absolutely crazy numbers. Now, I was expecting him to be on quite a big deal given how much money Sheffield United, originally paid for him, the fact they bought him whilst they were a Premier League club, coming over from Liverpool, but 34k for the return they've got on him so far. My God, they need to start seeing some consistency soon. In 3rd place, we then have Stoke City's Dwight Gale coming in with a humongous £37,000 a week. Now, I expected Dwight Gale to be on a lot, but that one really took me back and by surprise. Now, the catch with this one is the fact that he did sign for Stoke on a free transfer, so in effect, they've gone ahead and bumped up that wage deal for Gale as a result of having not had to pay a transfer fee, but this one still works out to around about 3.5 million over the course of a 2-year contract which he originally signed, and I think that so far for Stoke they've not really had a return on that investment so far. Been quite a frustrating one to watch this season. I think there was a funny stat that came out the other week that he's been caught offside more times than he's had shots on target so far this season. Has had the ball in the back of the net plenty of times, but was offside for those occasions as well, and it's just not quite fallen for him as it has in seasons gone by in the Championship when he has been so prolific. Coming in 2nd place, we then have Watford's Ismaila Sarr coming in as their top earner at £40,000 a week. Expected him to be right up there in terms of the biggest earners in the Championship, and that was the case in the end. Honestly, really quite surprised that Watford did manage to go ahead and keep hold of him alongside João Pedro in the summer transfer window. Out of that big front three that they were coming into this season with, it was only Emmanuel Dennis in the end who they went ahead and lost, but yeah, a player of his quality on a Premier League contract, that was to be expected, about 40 grand a week. But coming in as by far and away the biggest earner in the Championship this season, we have Norwich City's Teemu Pukki coming in at £47,000 a week. Absolutely massive money here. Now, I'd imagine that this is Premier League money, an extension he signed whilst they were in the Premier League or something along those lines, because, this one is absolutely humongous. It is worth noting that Norwich obviously did sign Pukki on a free transfer and has been unbelievably prolific for them in pretty much every season he's been at the club. Even in those years in the Premier League, did still return from those years with a respectable goal return, but 47k a week works out to just over about £2 million a year, and for that sort of money you're paying him, you'd be expecting the Golden Boot every year. But guys, there we have it. There was every Championship club's highest earner ranked from the cheapest to most expensive weekly wage. Like I said at the start of the video, all of these figures were taken from Salary Sports, so there may be a few inaccuracies in here, but an enjoyable video to put together nonetheless. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. Apart from that though guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.